Hey everyone. So, when you hear the word Sabbath, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's that age old debate, right? Saturday versus Sunday. But what if the real meaning has absolutely nothing to do with a specific day? In this explainer, we're going to dig into a pretty radical idea that the Sabbath isn't just a day you check off on the calendar, but a way you actually live your life. All right, so let's set the stage. We're all pretty familiar with this argument. Is it Saturday, the seventh day, or is it Sunday, the first? I mean, this debate has literally divided people for centuries. And for all those centuries, this has been the big question. But you have to wonder, is it possible that by getting so caught up in arguing over which day, we've completely missed the entire point? What if the calendar isn't even the thing we should be looking at? This is where our source material just flips the whole discussion on its head with this one powerful question. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, the true essence of the Sabbath isn't about marking a day on a calendar at all. It's about embracing a fundamental moral principle. And here's the kicker. That principle doesn't start with rest. It starts with work. So the source points out something that is so crucial, but honestly, it's often overlooked. Before you even get to the part about resting, there's a command to work. The focus is squarely on those 6 days of labor coming first. And this sequence, work, then rest, is presented as the real key to unlocking this whole concept. And this work, then rest idea, it's way more than just a simple weekly schedule. According to the source, it's a fundamental principle of order that has some pretty huge implications for both our personal freedom and for society as a whole. Okay, so this slide really lays out the two opposing paths the source is talking about. On one side, you've got the Sabbath way. You work first, you earn, and then you get to enjoy rest and freedom. But on the other side, you've got the way of dead. That's where you enjoy the benefit first, which means you now owe something, and that ultimately leads you into a kind of bondage. And this is the crucial connection the source is making. When we want that reward before we've actually done the work, it apparently fosters covetousness. And that desire, the source claims, is exactly what leads not just individuals, but entire societies into debt, turning people into merchandise and trapping them as, quote, slaves to the lender. I mean, this quote from Einstein just nails the source's argument perfectly, doesn't it? Arguing about which day to observe while totally ignoring the principle of work before rest, it's like clinging to a symbol that's completely lost its meaning. The day itself is just the symbol. The principle is the real substance here. So the big question is, how did we lose this principle? Well, the source walks us through a historical narrative, arguing that a massive shift happened in how society took care of its needy, and that this change fundamentally altered our relationship with both faith and freedom. Okay, so according to this source, the early church was basically this self-sufficient community. They took care of their own, widows, orphans, anyone in need, all through this network of free will charity. And they made a point to consciously avoid the Roman state welfare systems because they saw them as a snare and a trap, a kind of entanglement that would mess with their freedom and their faith. And this timeline kind of shows you how that all changed. Society went from a system of personal, voluntary charity to one of state-enforced welfare, funded by compelled contributions. The source really points to the time of Constantine as a major turning point. That's when the church got integrated with the state, and the focus of Sunday started to shift away from that community charity and service to more of a formal, state-sanctioned day of assembly. And this quote from the historian Edward Gibbon really gets to the heart of the source's warning. These systems of state benefits, they promise security, but they can create dependency. People might actually be willing to submit to a kind of slavery as long as someone is respectfully telling them they're still free. Okay, now this is where it gets really fascinating. The source adds another whole layer to this, connecting this entire principle to a single ancient Hebrew letter. That letter is Tav. The source explains that this was the mark placed on the foreheads of the faithful in the book of Ezekiel. And get this, symbolically, this one little letter stands for 3 incredibly powerful ideas: faith, the Sabbath, and truth. So here's the big aha moment the source delivers. If the very same symbol represents both the Sabbath and faith, then living by faith is the way you keep the Sabbath. See, it's not about just taking a day off. It's about actively living by that principle of work first and trusting in that divine order. All right, so let's bring all this together. You've got the principle of order, the history, the spiritual symbolism. What does it all actually mean for us right here, right now? How do you live the Sabbath instead of just observing a day on the calendar?
Well, this slide really breaks down the actionable takeaways from the source. Living the Sabbath principle. It means working diligently so you can earn before you rest. It means avoiding becoming a surety for debt. It's about practicing free will charity within a real community network. And it's about living by faith in God's principles, not human systems, and really nurturing freedom through personal responsibility.
And in the end, the source concludes that this isn't just some personal philosophy. It's actually presented as a blueprint for building a free and resilient society from the ground up, all through what it calls a living network of responsible, charitable people. So what do you think? Does this change how you see the Sabbath? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so definitely drop a comment below. And hey, if this whole exploration resonated with you, be sure to like this explainer, subscribe for more, and share it with anyone you think might find it interesting. To learn more and actually connect with others who are putting these ideas into practice, you can join the Living Network over at preparingyou.com. Don't worry, the link is right there in the description. Thanks so much for watching,